Hello Cancer, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for June 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you the standout features to look out for to begin with, but please stay with me. I will explore in much greater detail all the key dates and timings and influences particularly relevant to your sign. Now the 21st is really critically important because then the Sun returns to your sign for the first time in 11 months, and of course this point in 12, and we have the summer solstice. In Western tropical astrology, this is predicated on the 4 seasons, and these are divided into 4 cardinal quadrants, of which yours is one. So this is cardinal quadrant 2. The Sun returns to Cancer, and over the next 13 weeks, this gives you an awesome opportunity to leverage your hopes and desires in a very individualistic way. Now, this particular year is going to see Pluto influential on that particular event, but I will share that with you in more detail. But the other thing that I'm really excited to share with you is the fact that the Sun in the last few days of this month forges an amazing link with Jupiter, the planet of fortune, which is now in the part of your situation to do with your long-term future, your friendships, your higher purpose. So lots to share with you, so please stay with me for more. But please also click on or tap on the subscribe button. This means every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Also, if you would like to get your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, totally free, you can sign up for your Sun or your Ascendant or both. The choice is yours. Please see the link below. And if you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast and really embrace more serious astrology and the power of it and how it can influence your future so helpfully, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can provide for you your life roadmap report. This can help you to get a much more intimate understanding of the patterns that have impacted on your journey so far, but also how you can capitalize on your strength and avoid some of the challenges that may have repeated themselves. Also, my special package of 30% off, you can get your 12-month personal forecast, totally unique to you, which will give you searing insights for the months to come. If you don't know your time, my new solar package works in the same way, 30% off, the life roadmap and the forecast, but this is based on your Sun. And if you enjoy sun sign astrology videos on YouTube, this is going to be something that you easily relate to, but can still give you some incredibly valuable insights. Please see the links below for more. So Cancer, as June begins, so the Sun is located in the rather quiet and reflective sign of Gemini. However, you have a glorious conjunction between Jupiter in the sociable 11th and the North Node. The first 10 days of this month could see something really exciting develop around your future, which the 11th house represents, or some kind of connection to people who really align with your higher purpose. Now also, as this month begins, we do have Venus in your sign in a complex opposition to Pluto. Now Pluto taught you a lot of lessons around relationships since 2008, and there may have been some big developments in that part of your situation, but there could be a very positive one that develops with this frontal opposition. Venus in your sign is giving you a maximum amount of illumination in terms of your allure, and Pluto can give you the power to connect to people very positively. It's just really that with Pluto in the mix, there can be a degree of leverage that's applied, whether it's a financial, business or personal dimension, that's not always totally helpful. But sometimes we need a bit of grit in order to get to where we want to go. It can't always be because we have this mythical hope of how things will pan out. So maybe there is an opportunity to punch through and connect with someone. And with Mars at the start of this month in Leo, really emphasizing your appreciation of sensual pleasures, but also having firm foundations financially. Maybe you are having to discuss something of great importance with someone very influential, and charm can definitely be an asset to you. But on the 4th, there is a full moon, quite a complex one. Because you're a water sign and your ruler is the moon, it's not like you're not in touch with how you feel a lot of the time. So the moon, obviously, for you, is something you have a sense of, and therefore the moon being in house 6 is to do with practicalities. The sun in house 12 is to do with more to do with the spiritual, psychological and philosophical dimension. If something's a bit out of kilter in your life, like you are really thinking very deeply about how to approach something, and you do feel a bit swamped or overwhelmed, what the moon is saying here is to try to be more practical about it. And of course, because it is in Sagittarius, find a little bit of fire to cut through the mist. So that can be something that you can apply yourself. However, there is also the question of Saturn. Since March the 7th, Saturn moved into the part of your situation to do with adventure, independence, travel, higher education, philosophy, and generally just being a bit of a freer spirit. But hold on, there's a catch, because Saturn's not really about freedom. It's more about where we get a little bit snowed under. But Saturn can also reward perspiration and application. So although it's got a dark reputation in astrology, it can reward us. And over the next couple of years, if you're open to revisiting your philosophies or your understanding, if you're open to increasing your knowledge around any facet of life, you can push through. And in fact, this month Saturn forges a very supportive link with Jupiter. Now this is significant because Jupiter is about growth. Saturn can be about restraint or contraction. So when we get them together in a helpful link, as they are, a sextile, they're very moderating to each other's excesses. So I think because Jupiter is in the part of your situation to do with your highest hopes, and Saturn's asking you to check out the information, the 9th house, whatever future plans you've got, the more you inform yourself, the more they're likely to succeed. So I feel that the full moon, therefore, is giving you an opportunity to try to get a good alignment between the practical sphere and the feeling sphere. But Saturn and Jupiter do provide a good anchor to that energy, which is really going to be helpful to you. In fact, that angle between them becomes exact on the 19th if you want to pop that in your diary. However, on the 5th, something that I've been really excited to tell you about, Venus moves into your 2nd solar house from your sign, where it's been very flirty and coquettish, especially in the opposition with Pluto that dominates the first 10 days of this month, and in fact is actually exact on the 5th, just before she moves in to the 2nd house of your situation. It suggests that sometimes in life we have to use a bit of guile, and Pluto is about power, and Venus in our own sign is about how we're transmitting our attractiveness. It can be about money, it can be about relating, but the first house is very much based on us. So it's something that you want, and you can leverage it in a very powerful way at the start of this month. But obviously you have to do it right. But then on the 5th, later on that day, it moves into your 2nd solar house, and I think you could get some ka-ching. Now, I'm not saying that lightly, because obviously we've all experienced this big increase in the cost of living, and whatever your circumstances, I wouldn't like to suggest that you're going to win some massive lottery with lots and lots of money associated with it, but you could get luckier than you think you might, but particularly where your own efforts have been applied. So some extra loot or allure or appreciation of life's pleasures is definitely going to shape up over the next 4 months, because Venus is in Leo for a very extended period, and Venus in Leo is very grand. It really likes the good things in life. So if you're someone with a natural appreciation of good food and good wine, I think your diet plan could be under severe pressure right through to the 9th of October, when Venus moves on into the sign of Virgo, which is when you're going to, I think, enter into a period of much greater virtue. But in the in-between, I think seriously you could have an uptick in terms of your sense of being well off, and it may not necessarily just be in a material way. It could be just the feeling that, look, I'm quite blessed in some ways, which gratitude is a very powerful thing to embrace, and it's something that in modern society a lot of people are perpetually in a state of dissatisfaction. So gratitude would be a good part of this. But if you do have some kind of inflows, I wouldn't be too quick to spend them. Enjoy the extra sense of security that this can bring. And just to say, Venus and Mars do get close together in the last 3 days of this month, and that could also be a very prodigious moment in terms of this potential fortune, because by then the sun's in your sign and forging that extremely positive link to the planet of fortune, or the greater benefit. Jupiter, Venus is the lesser benefit in traditional astrology, still beneficial. Jupiter is the big boy, of course, and that tends to get most of the attention in terms of serendipity, but Venus can be fortunate too. But let's just wind back. On the 11th, Mercury does move into Gemini. Now this could be a little bit challenging in a way, but of course Mercury rules Gemini, so it's domiciled here, so that's good, fleet-footed. But the 12th house and Mercury are not the greatest of pals. It can in some ways diminuate the precision and crispness of Mercury through its rulership of Virgo, but also its fleet-footed communication through Gemini. The 12th house is, a need to just withdraw a little bit. But then, having said that, perhaps you can use it to do some research behind the scenes. But on the 11th also, Pluto inverts in its retrograde back into Capricorn, where it was for 15 years until the 23rd of March, since 2008. And I think there were some big events around relationships during that time. This return to Capricorn is going to last through to the 21st of January next year. It's only 11 weeks this year that it's been in Aquarius, and next year it's going to be in Aquarius 38 weeks before moving back into Capricorn and then back into Aquarius in the November. So we've got a staging of Pluto moving into Aquarius in the longer term. So the relationship dimension of your situation will be particularly relevant to you if you're born late in the sign of Cancer. And if you're born right at the start, it's more to do with a quincunx, which I will explain shortly. That becomes really quite entrenched in week 3 of this month. But before then, on the 17th, we have Saturn also going into retrograde through to November the 4th in that sector of exploration. If you do want to add to your skills, formally through a course, or you are thinking about moving somewhere completely different, even overseas, that wouldn't be a surprise. You are going to have to work at it. But equally, if you feel locked in a situation where you feel you don't have much freedom, you're going to become particularly conscious of it during these intervening times. But the 18th sees the new moon in the sign of Gemini, but 12th house new moons are particularly complex, and this one's squaring with Neptune. If there are any very deep, painful, past, deep-rooted energies that you're trying to process, they really could feel amplified from the 18th through a month, to be honest. Because the 12th house is that psychological dimension, but where Neptune is the 9th house, and that can be to do with exaggeration. Neptune, of course, can be a trickster influence, so we can see our imagination expand on the reality, so we can start, developing dramas in our minds about how things have been that may not necessarily be exactly fitting the circumstances, but we all do it. It's part of the human state. However, the 21st is where you really start to find some extra bite and traction, because then the sun moves into your sign for the first time in 11 months and the first time for 12 months back to this exact point. And we have the summer solstice, which is something to really celebrate for your sign in particular, but it is in that quincunx with Pluto, which has inversed back into Capricorn, but by about 149 degrees, still angling to the sun. What does it mean? The sun in your sign is asking you to go with what feels really right for you, the individual. This is going to be supported 1 week later when Mercury pictures up in your sign. You're going to move much more into the present with that, and that's really going to be helpful. But because I think we need to see Pluto as house 8 in terms of solar equal house astrology, it's possible that if you're wanting to do something as an individual, you just have to really be mindful how that's going to affect someone that you're very invested with. Maybe you need their financial support, maybe you need their emotional encouragement. But if you try to do it without thinking this through, you might end up not doing it very well. It may not be very joined up. However, those last 3 days of the month do see the sun in a glorious link with Jupiter, but also Saturn. That's helpful. Less helpful is Mars in quite an abrasive right angle with Uranus. I remember when this happened in 2018, had quite a big impact on my personal situation. So Mars in your second house is about your desire to use your resources when you want, and of course it is going to be linking very beneficially with Venus at the end of this month. But Uranus is in the part of your situation to do with the more idealistic side of life, but it can be about truths. So there could be some harsh conversations about some financial realities. Perhaps in an ongoing relationship, your attitude to expenditure may not marry with a partner's, and that can cause some tension. Or you could find yourself feeling much more impulsive about splashing out and wanting to just do it and not think too much of the consequences. But taking in the whole Cancer, I feel your finances can improve this month. I feel that you're going to find a greater purpose with the sun returning to your sign with the summer solstice. I feel that you can draw goodnesses to you with Venus's help, first in your sign in that opposition with Pluto, then in Leo. I think your appreciation of anything remotely yummy, Moorish or calorific goodies is going to be incredibly hard to resist. But I feel that you're really going to pick up speed in the last few days of this month, even if there could be a little bit of a tete-a-tete with someone who sees something very differently to you. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Please like, comment or subscribe.